Hey guys, it's Will.
I'm Mike.
This is a special Hong Kong cinema episode of First Watch. This is the show that's part review, part reaction, and this was actually a first time watch, I think, for both of us. So this is Black Magic 2. This is a Shaw Brothers film. This is of the subgenre of kind of like occult, black magic, witchcraft, Southeast Asian horror movies that were made in Hong Kong in the 70s and 80s. It's a sequel to Black Magic. It doesn't really have anything to do with Black Magic other than the fact that they're both named Black Magic, and they have the same actors, but they're all playing different parts. So T. Lung is in this movie, who is in a ton of Shaw Brothers stuff, like he's in Opium and the Kung Fu Master, and he's in Avenging Eagle, and then he was in A Better Tomorrow, and like a lot of those 80s were like bloodshed movies, so he's very famous, so you probably know who he is. If you watch Hong Kong movies, Lo Lieh is in it, who actually, he's the guy on the cover, and he was the lead in King Boxer, which is also called Five Fingers of Death, which was the first, I think that was the first ever like kung fu movie released, like a major theatrical release in the U.S. It came out before the Bruce Lee movie, Enter the Dragon, like 6 months before, or something like that. And then it was directed by Ho Meng-hua, who did the first Black Magic film, and then he also did Oily Maniac and like a lot of those kind of like trashy, exploitative, like witchcraft monster type movies. So this movie is ridiculous. I think that's the best way to describe it.
It's very ridiculous.
It's like there's a doctor who's living in some tropical city, as it's described somewhere. I think it's like Vietnam, Thailand, somewhere like that. And he invites his friend, who's played by T. Lung, and his wife, who I think is played by Lily Lee, who's in this movie, who's also in the first Black Magic, and she's in a ton of stuff. So she's really famous and awesome. I think she was in Come Drink With Me, or was it Dragon Inn, the King Hu movie.
I'm not a big fan of these movies, so...
Yeah, so... To get the plot out of the way, this doctor who is from Hong Kong, who is living in Southeast Asia, invites his friend to come, who is also a doctor, because he thinks black magic is happening, basically. He's like, I can't explain any of this stuff medically. Come and look at it. And then we meet the witch doctor, shaman, black magic practitioner, who's played by Lo Lieh, who is 80 years old, and he stays young by...
he drinks breast milk.
From,
and not from, like, willing subjects.
No. So what he does is he
casts a spell on them. And
he has, like, these wax figures, and he casts a spell, and then he has nails that are, like, this long, and he drives them into people's heads and turns them into zombies, basically. Yeah. And they look really young and beautiful, but when he pulls the nail out of their head,
kind of like...
they look all old and decayed and decrepit, and so he...
Remind me, does he, like... do something that makes him like produce like the breast milk that's like special to him, or can he just like go hire someone? No, you don't remember
what happens?
Vaguely.
Okay.
I fell asleep to most of it.
No, you didn't.
I did.
Oh my God, you hog!
That was the other one.
You hog!
No, I did fall asleep to this one.
No,
the other one I did.
The whole time we were watching this movie, you just kept looking at me like, "What the fuck is going on?" But that's the point. It's just completely insane. So
it is.
Excuse me.
And also,
what happens is
it's very low budget.
Yeah, well, I mean, most of the Shaw Brothers movies were relatively low budget. So he invites this woman. No, he hypnotizes her. Yeah, so he chants a spell, and he hypnotizes her. He needs your blood to chant the spell. So he delivers roses to her house, and she pricks her finger on them, and he takes the blood. Like, he wipes it with a handkerchief, takes the handkerchief home, creates a spell, uses a wax figure, which is like the kind of like the effigy of the person. He hypnotizes her. She comes to his house. He shaves her pubes.
For some reason,
remember? Because he says, "I need you." He says, "I need your hair," and then he shaves her pubes.
He puts them in the beaker.
He burns them. He puts them in the beaker. He makes like a potion, and she drinks it. And then he drinks the breast milk from her. Then there's like that ludicrous sex scene where it's very obvious that the lead actress had a body double, right? Because it's like close up of boobs, extreme close up of a butt. And then him, like, thrusting, and then you see her going, like, oh, like, her face. It's a ludicrous sex scene. He impregnates her, like, the next day, she's like 9 months pregnant. Yeah. They have to do a C-section, and it's just like a lump of disgusting. So if you don't know, if you're unfamiliar with this kind of, like, subgenre of Hong Kong horror movies, they are not scary. They are ludicrous and they are disgusting. Yeah. Like, Boxer's Omen is like the extreme example of like the gore body horror, just like disgusting. This movie, so Black Magic, the original, I absolutely love. It's very different from this movie. The original Black Magic is like, the setup is basically like a romantic comedy. There's a guy getting married, and a woman loves him, so she goes to a witch doctor to get him to love her back. And then there's another guy who loves her, and he tries to get the witch doctor to get, and it's like a love triangle, but there's a witch doctor, and so it's like kind of like a spooky, violent horror movie, but it's also like a screwball comedy. Right. This is just like over the top, disgusting. Like, there are these guys with no eyeballs who are wearing robes who end up catching on fire at some point, or like leaping off this building.
There's like decay everywhere.
There's like worms, like they're cutting people open, and there's like maggots inside of them, and like
the very beginning, a really fake looking alligator eats a woman, and then it cuts to footage of like real alligators in a different river with different lighting. Cuts back to the rubber alligator. Yes. The old good witch doctor cuts the open, and then you go to a wide shot. And the alligator is like 3/4 the size. It's like half the size. It's like.
But in that scene, the movie starts with these women doing laundry, soaking wet, right? They're soaking wet because they're doing laundry in the river. Then they pull their boobs out to go swimming.
Yeah. I mean, that was the best part of the movie.
The crocodile attacks them, and there's a lot of nudity in this movie.
There's a fair bit.
This is very clearly an exploitation movie. Like,
well, look, it says more gore, more nudity, more zombies. That's pretty accurate.
Like, to the max, they were like boobs, gore, zombies, violence, like.
And then just absurdness.
There's that scene where the guy gets his arm cut off with like a stone axe.
What about the scene where the one guy, not one of the main characters, is in love with one of the zombies that the witch doctor made? Mm-hmm. He has him cast a spell. Yeah. She goes. They go to the hotel. They start making out. The clerk is watching from a window.
So the guy working in the hotel is like, "Oh, I'm gonna go watch." So he goes in
he's like 3 feet away. They can clearly see him, but they don't.
That's why
of course.
It's so good.
And then the guy has a necklace on. It's like gold.
It's like a Buddha
or something.
Like a little Buddha figure.
And it starts like burning her.
Right, because she is like an evil zombie when she's in the presence of like the power of the Buddha. Yeah.
And so and then he opens his eyes and he's like, this is like this old nasty thing.
She reverts to being old and she's all burned up and stuff.
And stuff.
Well, that happens too with the amulet. Like, there's a scene where there's a good shaman, right? And spoiler alert, the good shaman gets injured, and he knows that he can't fight the bad shaman anymore. So he rips his eyeballs out and gives them to the T. Lung character, and is like, "You have to eat my eyes so you have my special sight." Like, that's the kind of movie this is. Yeah. It's like just pure trash.
Just nonsense.
But I think this guy is a good director in as much as it has like all of the great stuff that you would expect from like 70s grindhouse. Like, there's those super crazy zooms, which you didn't like, but which I love. So I really think the bottom line here is, if you like gore, body horror, splatter movies, if you like cheesy 70s grindhouse and exploitation movies, if you like Hong Kong black magic horror, you'll really like this, and if you don't, you really won't. Right. But so I really enjoyed this movie. It's called Black Magic 2. This is just like I got this at Amoeba Records for like $5 or $10, brand new. We did an unboxing of this, so if you're on YouTube, we'll include a link in the description of this video to the unboxings, because I talk about how much I paid for it, blah, blah, blah. I think this is just like the Celestial Pictures. Yeah, Tokyo Shocker designed the English language packaging according to this, but Celestial Pictures has the rights to all the Shaw Brothers movies, so I think it's just like standard commercial release DVD. Black Magic 2, it's a good movie for like the Halloween, 31 Days of Horror, if you're doing that kind of challenge thing on Instagram, or if you just like exploitation, horror, trash, like that kind of stuff, check it out.
All right.